And once again, we weren't paying attention to the time.
I looked up and it was, I figured it's going to end whether I'd say anything or not.
Well, you found us, so we'll hope that everybody else finds us. And here comes Art. And
can you hear me?
Ray, yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
It's always good.
That was a surprise.
We need to start paying more attention to the time. It just happened. Ray is trying to rejoin. Here comes Barry. Barry's here.
Barry.
Ray's back. So what were you saying about the cost of the Ender 5s?
The Ender 3 is like $250. The Ender 5 and 6 are about the same price, but there's a little bit differences as far as the bed, an auto leveling device.
Yeah.
And I had some other stupid little stuff. But they were about the same price.
Yeah.
I would say the Ender Pro 3 is only like $189. If you order
maybe
it.
I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, it's $300 at Micro Center, but they had it on sale the other day for like $199.
It's $199. I'm looking at the website right now.
But yeah, I ordered mine from somewhere else just like a week before they went on sale for $189, and then I got 2 rolls of filament. And it was like $235 with upgrade attachments and the peel off thermal bay or something.
The I don't see the 5s, the Ender 5s. Do they have an Ender 5?
Yeah.
Micro Center?
They did.
Yeah, they did. I saw it printing.
Huh. Okay.
My brother sent me a link to a BYU library of compliant devices that they have developed. Some of them are pretty cool. They have a 30-to-1 wrench that has no moving joints. They're all flexible.
Yeah, I just realized, thank you, you're going to let me just go home.
Anyway, BYU has a pretty big library of them. I thought they were pretty neat.
Cool.
Also, those that are interested in the Ender Pro or Ender 3, there's a college guy has made a YouTube video of, I guess there was like a grad student that did a bunch of work to convert the Ender 3 to do true 3D printing ish. I mean, it's as much as it can without being able to rotate the head anyway. But it'll do arches and stuff like that. So like print, like, you know, like model plane wings and stuff like that, contouring over the outside of the, instead of like the filament layers. So it's a lot stronger.
I've seen stuff like that. I've seen, like, MIT has done a bunch of stuff to figure out new ways to print, or different ways to print using the common off-the-shelf printers. It's pretty much software related.
Well, yeah, it's software. There's a couple tweaks. There's nothing like hard ways where you really needed to do from when I mean, I haven't done it to mine yet, but so I haven't even assembled mine yet. But
yeah, there's that one. Did you see that the bed that it's basically a conveyor belt, so you could build long instead of
oh yeah,
up and down?
Is that the one that does it at an angle? Did
Yeah. Yes.
print at an angle?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, there's a couple of different models of that conveyor belt system, but one of them does print at like a 45 or something.
Neat stuff, man. There's some crazy things out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I just thought it was interesting, you know, $189 printer, and then you could actually do contour printing. I mean, there's a certain limit to how many degrees of angle you can do because of the print header still got to go, you know, it's straight up and down. It can't tilt. But for $189,
yeah. I mean, I'm perfectly happy with my my older i3s, and there's all kinds of things you can do with those, either via software or hacking them, or just tweaking them a little bit. So good printers for like $150.
Did I miss much?
I don't know. There's always the recording. You could always go back and watch it.
Oh, okay.
Look this in Walmart.
What is this? Walmart.
Children.
Very cheap.
That looks like a toy printer. I mean,
It looks like that i3 Mini that I had that I hate. Hate that printer. In fact, it's about the same size as that printer. Hate that
Those
printer.
look very toy.
I picked up that i3 Mini down there at Micro Center, I think for $89 or something.
That looks like an old printer bot.
Yeah,
With
Yeah.
plastic parts.
a small printer bot.
Yeah, and the size is very similar, right? 100 by 100 by 100 millimeters.
Yeah.
But if a kid can use it, maybe that is pretty easy and works at least.
I don't know.
Hey, it's 10 meters of PLA comes with it.
I say, has it come quasi kid proofed?
Supports Sakura. I don't need another 3D printer.
Famous last words.
I was going to say until next week.
Yeah.
You'll never
Until the
be
next one, right?
16K.
Look this one. You need this one. Just a second.
It's my last one, I swear.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And until the next one shows up anyway.
How many 3D
Try
printers
this.
can
This
you
is
have?
99.
Yeah.
That looks like one that I told that the grandkid wanted a 3D printer, and I said, "There you
Well,
go.
looks
That's
nice.
cheap." I actually told him to get an Ender 3 though. It's like, if you really want to do something serious, get an Ender 3.
Hey, Vicente, I noticed there on the right that they have the resin printer for 209 beside it.
209. Yeah.
Yeah. Micro Center has that resin printer for $199.
Do they?
Yeah.
I was thinking I'd seen it for $199 somewhere not too long ago.
Yeah.
A friend of mine said it was a really good one, especially for the price.
The Creality LD002R resin printer, $199 at Micro Center.
And that's the one that uses the LCD display for activating the filament.
Yes, uses an LCD for the mask.
There is a UV light and an LCD open and closing the pixels to polymerize the UV resin.
Now, do those have a threshold that's achieved by two intersecting beams, or how do you control the?
Well, the LCD is very close to the layer of the resin you are converting, you know. So it's very close. I mean, 1 millimeter or less. So the light is far from, almost go parallel through the pixel and hit the resin after the LCD.
Okay.
So it works. Very high resolution. I can show the one I bought from Amazon. Let me check to put the link. Orders. Mm-hmm. Here is. I'm sharing the link. Illegal Mars 2 Pro.
Wow.
This is the top of the line of these people. This is the fast one, higher resolution.
Yeah, you should be able to make some pretty nice things with that. Yeah.
It has a lot of good reviews in YouTube and it's new. It's 3 months old. It's really new. And the LCD is monochrome, means that it's higher resolution than the color one because you use 3 pixels for each color. In this case, you will use just 1 pixel on or off, and you have more resolution and more speed, more intensity. So this printer is faster and is more precise. The problem is that almost all resins produce parts that are too breakable, too, how's the word?
Fragile.
It's,
Reliable.
yeah, it's no, you need to use some special resins that are very expensive and smell very, very bad and are hard to clean.
And
to have
probably
something.
Toxic.
Yeah. Well,
They're all toxic.
This unit has a active carbon filter. It's the first one that has a filter and can be used in. It reduces a lot the smell of the rosin in many cases. But the problem is that the filter is not replaceable. So after, if you use it a lot, maybe you need to disassemble the machine to try to find out the way to replace the filter. This is a cons of this thing. But I see.
Well, Leroy's comment about it being toxic reminds me that just a few weeks ago, they released a movie called Dark Water, based on a law firm in Cincinnati and their 20-year battle against DuPont.
DuPont?
For the precursor of Teflon. Pretty startling movie if you have the opportunity. Not for the light of heart.
It's about people getting sick because of
they managed to get 69,000 people to give blood samples.
Oh my God.
It took 7 years for them to do the analysis. At which point DuPont reneged on their previous agreement, and the guy started in on individual lawsuits for 3,000 people.
Wow.
The first three cost DuPont $16.7 million. They settled the remainder of the 3,000 for a little over $750 million. And the very, very end of it, without giving too much away, it's still in the court system because DuPont has spun all of the liabilities off to a couple of tiny little companies that have no assets
Okay.
in an effort to
Lawyers.
divest themselves of the liabilities. Yeah.
So you can have money from them if you win.
You can sell off the assets of the company. It wouldn't touch the first case, I doubt.
Yeah, it's
This is,
hard to get blood from a stone.
yes, particularly if the stone's been broken away from the castle. This is, in my opinion, it's an example of the worst of American business. Knowing that they were harming people, and instead of owning up to it, spending 2 decades fighting what
You
they
have
already
the
knew.
you have the right or the wrong lawyers. You have control of everything.
The
This,
sad thing is they're the ones that have gotten caught, right?
Yeah.
Versus the ones that, get off the hook.
well, they were not the only ones that manufactured this precursor. 3M was also involved, but it appeared, I don't know for a fact, but it appeared that as soon as 3M discovered all of the hazards associated with this, they got the hell out of Dodge and stopped manufacturing it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, DuPont dug up 16,000 tons of this sludge from Delaware and shipped it to a landfill in West Virginia. So they didn't solve the problem. They just relocated it to the worst economic area they could. The only reason this came to light is somebody's grandmother was friends with the farmer. And she said, well, my grandson's an environmental lawyer. Why don't you take this to him? And he took it on.
Okay.
Got a good silver
Well, that
bullet, Art?
sounds. I'm
Got a
sorry.
good silver bullet you just killed there? Silver bullet. Anybody know what the silver bullet is? That's an old commercial. Sorry.
It's a beer, some kind of beer.
Coors, yeah, Coors was known as a silver bullet for years.
Oh, this is seltzer. My days.
Yeah.
This
Close.
is, yeah. No, Silver Bullet was the Coors trademark before they were sold off.
Very cool.
I guess you can identify people's origins by the commercials they remember. I remember the Silver Bullet quite well. Okay. I also remember the days when you couldn't sell Coors east of the Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
That was the genesis of the what was it? The Burt Reynolds
Oh,
movies,
the Bandit.
the
Smokey and the
Bandit and Bandit 2 and so forth and so on. The initial one I think was generated by a bet between two brothers, that the Bandit and his buddy there could get 18-wheeler with Coors from someplace west of the Mississippi to I don't know where they ended up. I think they ended up down in Florida someplace. But that was the genesis of that movie. Now you can buy Coors or Coors branded at least beer any place in the world. I think the reason that they didn't sell it east of the Mississippi was it wasn't pasteurized. And it didn't last long if you didn't keep it refrigerated.
They actually brew Coors at the Trenton Brewery here, and they brew it at a lower temperature. It has a series of temperature variations they go through. And we
Yep.
saw, Kenny and I went out there and saw them making Coors. Yeah.
Now, where's this Trenton Brewery?
It's what is that? And it used to be Anheuser-Busch or
Miller.
what was it? And they sold it off to an African owner now, but I'm sure they're still making Coors and tons of different beers. Yeah, they had the automated hand trucks that placed the pallets, and they would stack them. They had a storage and retrieval system and the driverless trucks. Yeah, pretty cool.
They were located on a big aquifer that went east to west. That was a river that predated the glacial era. And it's filled in now with glacial moraine. And it's a huge water aquifer that's not in contact with the Great Miami River. Kind of an interesting thing.
Well, that's probably good.
Yeah.
A lot of breweries actually were established in places that had special water. So it doesn't take many parts per million to really screw up the brewing process.
It's over on Wayne Madison Road in Trenton.
So we're not talking about Trenton, New Jersey, I assume. We're
No,
talking
we're
about
talking
Trenton.
Trenton, Ohio.
Yeah.
Not too
Okay.
far from us.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
at least from some of us.
It's west of Monroe.
I guess I didn't even realize there was a Trenton, Ohio.
Well, the people that grow up, this is my opinion, the people that grow up in Trenton believe it is the center of the universe.
That's true of most small towns.
There, after 9/11, my daughter-in-law, who grew up in Trenton, was driving home, and there was an auto accident on the bridge going over the Great Miami River. And she was convinced that the saboteurs that had attacked
Oh,
the World Trade Center were attacking the bridge into Trenton.
My God.
I remember when Trenton had one street light. That was it, right there at the corner of State and whatever that is, Main Street, or right next to the police station. There was one stoplight. That was it.
What has it got now? 3?
No, there's I think there's 5. I think they're up to 5. They've grown. They've grown. There's one at Wayne Madison. There's one at State Street in Wayne Madison, I think. There's 2 right there downtown. I think there's one more somewhere.
Yeah, it could be very, very close. The brewery there, they have a huge output. I forget how many liters of beer they produce a day, but it's one of the larger breweries in the U.S. and very unassuming. You drive by it, you wouldn't think there was much there.
It's very interesting that they probably brew like 50 different beers there. Seriously, stuff I'd never heard of passing by.
Yeah.
Do they do tours?
I was there with one of the guys that worked there doing the project, putting up the storage retrieval system, took us in there. I don't know if they do tours or not, but it would be a good tour. Yeah, give them a buzz.
It's Miller Coors in Trenton. Here,
It used to be Miller Brewery, and so it's Miller Coors now. Okay.
I'll put the phone number in the chat. At least the phone number that Google says.
This is 5 miles from you, right? Trenton.
Yeah, it's
How
not
far?
very far.
It's about 11 miles from me. It's not a terribly long drive.
Yeah, it's. I would say between probably 5 and 7 miles from me.
Julie and I toured the Budweiser facility before it was sold overseas. There in St. Louis. And it was one of the most uninteresting tours I've ever seen. It was like going through looking at the outside of piping. I mean, that was it. There wasn't anything to see.
Stainless steel everywhere.
Stainless steel, automated valves, a control room with cameras, and I was unimpressed.
One of the most interesting factory tours I've ever been on was Hershey's. They used to have in California a Hershey plant, and of course they have one in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And that is highly automated, obviously. But the thing that was fascinating to me was the machine that put together, assembled the Hershey's Kisses, where you have a little droplet of chocolate and then a wrapper of aluminum foil, and then a little flag in the top of it. And I got to tell you, they are. Is Ray trying to say something?
I don't know. I think Ray's trying to talk.
He's in deep trouble and nobody knows
Is
why.
he really?
Help!
I was saying, don't spoil it for me, because as far as I know, there's a little bitty catapult that shoots the piece of chocolate through the air, and it lands on this blanket of aluminum foil that catches it and it snuggles it together and puts a little safety flag on it.
It's actually much more interesting than that, Ray. but I don't know if they have that tour. They had that tour in the California facility.
Better than
Which
SpaceX.
was over in this. I'm sorry.
Better than visit SpaceX. I mean,
Oh yeah. But I don't know if they have that in the Hershey plant. I've never been in the Hershey plant in Pennsylvania. I've been in the one and I forget what town it was. It's someplace in the Central Valley of California.
Yeah, Hershey moved to China, so I'd be shocked if their plant still functions.
Actually, they still have significant manufacturing in the U.S. Some things are controlled by where you can move food stuff.
Well, there was a lot of hoopla. My
Yeah.
mom's office's corporate headquarters is there in Hershey, or right outside of Hershey, and there was a bunch of hoopla there several years ago about them shutting that plant down, being their original location, and it moved to China.
Well, they have multiple plants there in Hershey. The one in California was just a single standalone, and recently meaning the last decade, they've taken to buying a bunch of these small boutique chocolate places. Turned out in the U.S., there were a lot of boutique chocolatiers speckled throughout the country, and Hershey has taken to consuming them, I guess you could say. I have been on a number of the tours through those plants. It's quite interesting. Of course, if you're into chocolate, it's it's the smell alone adds calories. Okay.
Apparently, they are still doing tours. If you go to Hershey.com.
Now those are in Hershey, Pennsylvania, or where?
Yeah, it says Hershey. Visit Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And then they've got some other locations, and it also looks like Disney has a Hershey factory ride that you can go through
with Oompa Loompas.
with Oompa Loompas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anyone that's in the group today been through a steelmaking facility?
My father was a research metallurgist. Yes, when I was 6 years old. Okay.
Was that in Torrance, California?
No. I was born in Columbus, Ohio. My dad worked for almost 40 years for Battelle Memorial Institute.
Okay.
So he was going all over to steel plants, and actually, he started there in 38 or 39, and was those were the days when there was still steel making in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Made a lot of steel, couldn't breathe the air, but made a lot of steel. Since then, most of that has moved overseas. But yeah, steel making plants are fascinating.
Yeah, the facility I worked at was 2,800 acres. If you viewed it at an acre a day, it would take you 11 years to see it.
When I was a kid, we toured Armco, which is AK now.
Yeah.
Dad worked at Armco, and
he was over in East Processing.
He was in East Pro, yeah. So we got to go through East Processing and something else because they would hold open house back in the late 70s, early 80s. You could do stuff like that.
One of the first days that I started working there in 75, I was up on top of the coke oven batteries. And without getting too dramatic about this, you take 32 tons of powdered coal, drop it into a 2,400 degree oven, and about 1/3 of the material boils off as volatiles. And in fact, when you see the old World War II movies of the Allies going after the Nazi war machine, they say they're going after the gas plant. Well, that is the coke plant that they're going after.
Yep.
And if you don't have suction on the battery to take that pressure down, all of that material has to go someplace. And I was on top of the battery when the exhausters failed. And I to this day believe that I had 1 foot in hell because the 60-pound lids were being blown out of their sockets. There's fire 12, 15 feet high going everywhere. The doors are going off, and it's like, my presence here is not required, nor is it going to be helpful to anyone. So I got off of it. But I did have a great deal of respect for the people who knew what was going on. I can hear the guy, he's talking to me, and he recognizes there's a change in the sound. And he says, "Gotta go." And he took off making corrective actions. And that was the norm. But it is an experience that people who complain about, oh, the air conditioning's a little too warm, will never have an appreciation for it.
Yep. It's an industry that is based entirely on the lower left-hand corner of the iron carbon phase diagram.
Yep.
And basically it is not the iron that makes a difference in the steel. It is the carbon content, the molybdenum content, and all of these other manganese and so forth and so on. And you can change the behavior of that metal by just tweaking, a little bit to that lower left-hand corner of the iron phase diagram. And frankly, that's what ferrous alloy metallurgical engineers do. They know more about that corner of the phase diagram than they know about anything else. And my dad made a career out of that.
The one thing I remember from that tour, of course, I was young. I was between 7 and 10, but they had a computer there that I was just fascinated by, because it would print out big old banners that said stuff. It had a Linux program on it that you could tell it to print whatever you wanted, and it would print these huge banners out.
Now, what year was this?
Oh, well, I mean, it had to be 70, 77, 78, somewhere in there.
It didn't have a Linux, could have had a Unix printer.
Right.
Linus didn't release
Right.
Linus
It was probably
release
Unix.
Linux.
It had the you remember
Linux
the old
91.
You remember the old banner program? It was a command line program.
Yeah.
You type in banner and some words, and then it would feed it right out to either the console, or you could send it out to the printer. I remember coming home with
fun with those.
Yeah. Dad printed me out a big old banner. I remember that. And that's about as much.
Computers that were in operation in 75, you couldn't get into them through a CRT. They had a little display, and they had a backup that was also running. So I'm inquiring with the people that are running the boiler house, number 3 boiler house. And they said, well, we've got a bug in this one program. We're trying to work it out. So we're switching back and forth between the 2 programs they're running. And I'm looking, I can't see a damn difference between the 2 of them as to which one is running, which one is not. And they're saying, well, you can tell when you switch back and forth. And finally I said, how can you tell? And they said, well, down here in the corner of the screen, when that dot comes up, that's the second program. That's it? That's the human interface with this machine? A dot? And yep, that was their level of sophistication in 75. Oh.
Well, a lot of those in the 70s were running on TTY 33s, which were the big paper printer. You had a keyboard. It was very similar to a Telex or a Twix TTY 33. You could use it on anything.
1 minute.
I worked. Yeah.
That's what this was.
We're about to
It
go.
was a terminal thing. So we're down to about. Yeah, Ray's trying to talk again.
He's got a.
We might get a chance at going to a robot manufacturer as a group.
Cool.
We'll talk about that.
Oh wow!
Later.
When?
I don't know.
When?
Whenever they let us. We'll talk about that next time.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
We're at 20. We're at about 15. So
18, 16.
Send me an
Yeah.
email if you guys have something specific interested, like, hey, let's see this or let's see that.
okay.
I
Yeah.
might have some time.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.